just like Wade. The bleachers were empty except for him, and I looked around the field and saw that none of the other kids had noticed him yet. Up the hill on my right, Mrs. Hannah and Mrs. Davis stood talking out on the school playground. Neither of them had seen him yet, but I didn't have to wait long for somebody to spot him. "Look at that man up there," Selena said. She was playing third base and stood bent over with her hands on her knees. She was black, just like most of the kids we stayed with after school, and just about all the kids we lived with at the home. Her hair was fixed in thick braids, with bands that had marbles on them. They clinked together when she moved her head. I'd wanted to ask her to fix my hair just like hers, but my hair was too thin to stay in braids, which was fine with me because Selena was taller than me and seemed a lot older than me too, and I was always too nervous to talk to her. "Why is he just sitting there watching us?" she asked. I didn't know if she was talking to me or if she was just talking to herself out loud. "I don't know," I finally said. She looked over at me like she'd forgotten I was standing on base beside her. I said a little prayer that she wouldn't mention nothing about me and Wade looking alike, and I found myself wishing again that I looked more like Mom, like Ruby. A third grader named Greg stepped up to the plate, and even though something told me I shouldn't do it, I ran toward home as soon as he kicked it. The ball didn't do nothing but roll right back to the pitcher, and I got thrown out at the plate. I headed for the bench, but I kept my head down and didn't look up at the bleachers. My face felt hot, and I knew it had gone red, and I made myself believe I was embarrassed only because I'd been thrown out at home, not because it had all happened in front of Wade. Ruby sat by herself on the end of the bench, swinging her feet back and forth. When I got closer, she moved that dark hair behind her ears and stuck out her hand and waited for me. "High five," she said. I sat down beside her without saying anything, and then I bent over and dusted off my shoes. Ruby left her hand hanging just above my knees. "High five," she said again. "It's only a high five when it's up high." "All right," she said. "Low five, then." I gave her palm a little slap, and I looked up and saw Marcus watching me from the infield at second. He was wearing a white Cubs jersey with Sammy Sosa's number and name on the back. The school year had just started, and it was only the third Friday in August, but Mark McGuire already had 51 home runs to Sosa's 48. Me and Marcus were both rooting for Sosa to get to 62 and break Roger Maris's record first. He smiled at me, but I looked away like I hadn't seen him. It made me nervous, and I pulled my hair back in a ponytail and let it drop to my shoulders. When I looked up at Marcus again, he was still smiling. I couldn't help but smile a little bit, too, but then I heard a voice whisper my name. "Hey," it said. "Easter." It was Wade. He was leaning against the outside of the fence about halfway down to first base. Ruby looked up at him, stared for a second, and then looked at me. Wade smiled and waved us over. "Is that—" she started to ask, but I stopped her before she could finish. "Wait here," I said, standing up from the bench. "Easter," Ruby said. She jumped down like she was fixin' to follow me. "Wait here," I said again. She just stood there looking at me, and then she looked down the fence at Wade. I pointed to the bench and watched her climb back onto it. She crossed her arms like I'd scolded her. "I'll be right back," I said. I looked up the hill at Mrs. Hannah and Mrs. Davis. They still hadn't seen him. I kept close to the fence and made my way down the baseline. Wade had on an old blue Braves cap, and his hair, the same strawberry blonde as mine, stuck out around his ears. Whiskers covered his face and ran down his neck, and drops of white paint were all over his green t-shirt and blue jeans. He lifted his hand where it sat on top of the fence and gave me a little wave.